Hello, it's Brian here at the North American Guitar Showroom in London, and in this very cool episode of Talking Guitar, we are here with long-standing friend of TNAG and fantastic Canadian luthier, Mr. Joel Michaud.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and yeah, I mean, let's dive straight in. The most recent thing you've been working on, and the reason you're here, this gorgeous 00.
Sure. Yeah. Delivering this 00 actually to a German client, which is really fun. Fresh off the bench, still warm out of the oven. This guitar actually was a really nice, I call it like a palate cleanser. It was very, very simple. Take everything out of a guitar that isn't essential, and this is sort of the package you get. Very simple rosette, simple binding scheme, beautiful African Blackwood back and sides.
It's gorgeous.
Nice straight grain. Lutz Spruce top, which is a hybrid of Sitka and white and Engelmann spruce, grown in the northern peaks of BC, which is kind of cool, and it's a great sounding guitar. Yeah.
No, I mean, when you got that out of the case earlier, just to show us, it's striking. I mean, it's just so clear and so clean.
Oh, sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thanks.
But how have you found? Because all the guitars you've been doing recently, I mean, we've got 3 guitars coming in from you, and they're all OMs, and there's some pretty magical wood combinations in there. Definitely more, intricate and more.
Yeah. Oh man, sky's the limit as far as wood combinations. And it's really nice. African Blackwood is a beautiful stable of a wood, and visually it can just be nice and simple too. But I've built a lot of tree guitars too in the past, and those kind of go the other way visually, and with various things you can add and do to them, the sky's the limit. So again, it's nice to do something nice and simple.
Well, I was going to say, because obviously, we were talking earlier, you've got that history of working with these celebrity woods, but is there anything you've got hanging out that you think is maybe like an underdog in the wood world? Anything that other people are overlooking that you love working with?
I guess the classic answer maybe right now is maple. It's deceivingly amazing wood. And there's some really cool things that a lot of people are doing now with torrefaction. Torrefication, I should say. Essentially, it just changes the structure completely. It zaps every last little bit of moisture out of the wood, and it no longer responds at all like how it was before it went into the oven. Visually, of course, it changes too. It gets that really nice caramel color. So I'm really excited to do a couple more guitars with maple in the coming days, or in the coming months, I should say. I sent one to TNAG, I think it was sometime last year, a year and a half ago, out of maple as well. That was untorrefied, awesome guitar.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been a long time maple jumbo user.
Oh yeah?
And it's just, I love that combination, but the torrefication process is just a total game changer. Have you experimented with that with tops as well?
I've done only 2 of those, nothing for customers yet, just mostly prototyping.
Cool.
Again, it responds so differently. It's a hugely fragile addition to the whole structure. So essentially all the lignin in the wood gets zapped out, so you have to be really careful about when you're bending the wood or working with it. I distinctly remember the first time I got a set, and I was a top set. It was, I think, Adirondack Spruce, and I was flexing it around, checking some of the properties, and I snapped the top right in half. So it changes quite a lot of things. I'm not convinced that it's superior. It's just different.
Yeah.
So you need to take that into account when you're bracing and when you're working with it. But I'd love to use it possibly on a client's guitar in the future. I would have to do a little bit more testing. Yeah.
And how have you found that? Because obviously it seems like a lot of your work is client-based. I mean, you're saying your waiting list at the moment's 3 years.
Sure.
As a generalization in that realm with just stuff that excites you coming in.
Sure. Yeah, it's a difficult game, because you have to keep your clients happy, and you have to keep building those guitars that are on your list, but you also don't want to hit a stalemate where you're no longer progressing, right? So I try to lend maybe 20% of my day to the prototyping phase. A lot of the guitars the world won't see, sort of thing. Do the craziest, most out there things that maybe are going to work, maybe they won't work, but you just really can't take those risks on clients' guitars, because probably 95% of what I do is commissioned work. So it's not like I'm even just building a spec guitar that I could send out. Who knows how it'll end up, yada yada. Maybe it's great, maybe it's not. So when I'm working on clients' guitars, I'm making very, very small tweaks where I can understand the outcome. And all of the other guitars, it's really fun to experiment, but you just can't take those risks.
Yeah. Absolutely. And do you find you get to, I suppose, especially if it's a player, do you get to sort of immerse yourself in what they do before you go into it? So you can kind of, how do you find the process of working in them to find that voice?
Yeah, it really depends on the player, right? Some people know exactly what they want. And I'm at the point now where I can begin to understand the small changes that I'll have to make in order to achieve those results. And then some clients simply just want the best guitar that I can make. It's difficult when somebody comes to me and they say, I want it to sound like some other guitar, because quite frankly, I don't really exactly know how to do that. Every guitar is going to sound like a Michaud, no matter what I do. I can sort of tweak little variants, but the vision in my head, or the sound in my head, I can't really build different than that. I want to go for my goal. I can do little tweaks here and there. But yeah, again.
And what to you is that sound? Like, what's to you the Michaud sound?
Sure, I think I maybe even mentioned it to you guys years ago when I was here, but essentially I just want all the EQ dials to be not at 5. If I can have them all at 10, that's great, but I want them all just to be equal. I've played so many guitars that drift too far to either side of the spectrum. Like the trebles are sublime, they're super powerful and great, but the basses are just fade away. You know, they almost have these wolf notes to them where they'll hit and it'll drop right away.
Yeah.
And then I've played a lot of guitars with the exact opposite, right? The big booming bass that people talk about. But as soon as you try to play any sort of fingerstyle arrangement, all the trebles get lost and they just sound really shrill and sharp. So the ideal sound is essentially just everything as balanced as it can possibly be. I like a little bit more note separation, so I don't want the fundamental to be really big and boomy. I want the notes to be there just for long enough.
Yeah.
And sort of get out of the way for the next ones to go. So I'd say maybe my tonal signature would shift a little bit closer to the fundamental, and I want that to be really powerful with just enough overtones to be in there to color everything.
No, it's a beautiful tone. I mean, how have you found that? Because I mean, since we last saw you, I think you've introduced 2 new models.
Sure.
And how have you found that sound has evolved, taking in like a wider range of body styles?
Sure. Yeah, actually, like I've gone to both sides of the spectrum. I've created a smaller guitar in the O-R, and I've created my biggest guitar to date in the J-R, which is essentially a jumbo. I made the jumbo out of a call from clients to have something a little bit bigger than the OM that I currently build. It would be maybe a little bit more suited to somebody wanting maybe that modern finger style. Maybe they're doing some tapping, some percussive work and things like that, and they just need a little bit more of a body cavity size to achieve some of those overtones. But at the same time, my jumbo is not like most jumbos. It is not that big overtone, bassy sort of sound that I honestly can't identify with, because the trebles on those are always just really shrill and weak. So my jumbo is essentially just maybe like a over steroided OM. So it has everything that I like, just a slightly bigger sound to the whole thing, a little more encompassing. Whereas the O-R, I went the entire opposite way, and I shrunk the thing down to a super, super comfortable playing position. And it's probably my favorite guitar to date, or my favorite model to date. Incredibly powerful initial sting. Like it's just a cannon, the volume that comes out of that thing. And it's actually very interesting. A lot of people think it sounds louder than my OM.
Really?
And it's not true. But the mind plays like interesting tricks on you because the sound is so immediate, and because it's so quick. You hear a lot of that without any of the overtones or anything like that clouding what you're hearing. So it's very powerful. Due to the body size, the overtones, and the bass, I'm not going to say they suffer, but they're different, right? Yeah. But that guitar is it's incredible. It's a cannon. If I was to build one for myself, I would definitely build an O-R for sure.
And what woods would you choose for your own?
Oh, that's tough.
It's a loaded question.
Sure, yeah. I'd choose something probably local, you know. I wouldn't need something too fancy. Maybe just a black walnut with spruce or something like that. I have it in my brain that you can build a great guitar with just about any back and sides, and I'm on a mission to prove that. The main heart of the guitar is the top for me. So as far as back and sides woods, you name it, I could probably build a great guitar out of it. I'm very picky about my tops. So, yeah.
So whoever goes for the next build slot can spec out a cardboard back and sided.
Yeah, maybe. You joke, but I actually just completed a guitar. Are you familiar with Rocklight material?
I heard of it.
So essentially, what Rocklight is, it's a man-made substitute for ebony or for rosewood.
Right.
And I'm not exactly sure of the chemistry behind it, but it's essentially like a wood paper-like product.
Wow.
That's meant to look like ebony and rosewood. People have used it for fingerboards, bridges. I use it almost exclusively for binding nowadays.
Right.
But as a pet project of mine, I really wanted to build a guitar with Rocklight back and sides.
Okay.
So essentially a no wood back and sides guitar, and I just completed it actually.
Wow.
And it's a 00, and it sounds fantastic.
Blimey.
Yeah.
That's quite incredible, because your 00s and the they're by and large 14 fret. Nectarines, aren't they?
They're almost exclusively 14 fret. The O-R is almost exclusively a 13 fret.
Okay.
I've done the 00 in 12 fret variations, but the thing for me, I wanted the 00 to be like a real guitar.
Yeah.
You know, and not saying 12 fretters aren't real, but sometimes people assume they're for different uses, especially when it's a 12 fret. They say, well, you know, it's not an OM, so it can be something different, but they're very real guitars. Like they can keep up with the big boys. So that was one of the reasons I went to the 14 fret and the 13 fret respectively for them.
And I suppose it's got the immediacy to the sound that is...
Sure. Yeah, and you have to take that into account when you're bracing, right? People say there's that sweet zone on 12 frets.
Yeah.
I don't think I really believe in that. You just need to brace it differently. And you need to take that into account. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, speaking of the jumbo again,
Sure.
I mean, so this JR was my first encounter with one of your instruments, and that was here. And yeah, I mean, I suppose seeing this guitar again,
it's awesome to see this one again. Yeah, it looks like it's held up remarkably well, which is great. Beautiful condition for a pre-owned guitar. Holy heck, it's someone's essentially going to be getting a new guitar, which is great. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I alluded to at my core, I'm not a huge fan of jumbos. They just don't have any of what I look for in a guitar. So this is my take on a jumbo, and I've been able to coax a lot of really great, powerful trebles out of the things. Too. I have two on the bench right now that are both jumbos, actually. One with tree back and sides, and another with Brazilian back and sides.
Oh, wow.
So those will be fun to compare when I string them up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an incredible thing, and it was that, like, a jumbo format, but totally unlike any jumbo. And it was, when Tony McManus came in and played through loads of stuff, when he picked that up, he played a beautiful piece on it. And it was that, seeing a jumbo but hearing this completely other sound, and it was just that balance and the separation for fingerstyle was just magical.
Oh, cool.
But no, it's a beautiful thing. And so, in the last 3 years, I've noticed you've also started building more electric guitars, which you were saying you haven't done in quite some time.
Yeah, quite honestly. So maybe to step back and explain how that all happened. About 2 years ago or so now, I uprooted my operation and I moved to Montreal.
Wow.
This was half personal and half professional, I guess I could say. My partner and I realized that we both could essentially live and work wherever as long as I could find a shop, and we might not have that, you know, freedom forever. So we picked an area where I had a lot of good friends and access to an amazing co-op space. It was called the Mile End Guitar Co-op, where I set up space. And being away from the usual, not constraints, what's the right word here? The usual responsibilities of life.
Yes.
Freed up a lot of my time, right? So when you're not helping your friends or family or this or that, I had all of a sudden this extra free time. So I took advantage of that, and I did a lot more prototyping while I was out in Montreal. And I worked in between two incredible electric guitar builders. And the inspiration eventually just caught hold of me, and I started drawing up a few designs for electrics. And it's a completely different world. I don't want to confuse anyone and make them think like I know what I'm doing, but it's very freeing, you know. The constraints that you hold upon yourself for building acoustic guitars no longer exist for electrics. There are certain, of course, structural things you need to be aware of, but beyond that, it's a great freedom. So it was really fun being able to choose form ahead of function, you know, on a lot of those decisions when you simply can't do that with an acoustic. And yeah, the end result, I've got a lot of requests to build more. Unfortunately, I'm not currently taking orders for them, but it's great. I hope to probably build maybe 1 or 2 a year, something like that, just as a little side project. And it's nice because those can go to a different sort of client base as well. Opens you up to different worlds. So, yeah.
Well, they look absolutely beautiful. And what I wanted to ask in lieu of that was, is there anything from that avenue that you've taken back with you to acoustic building? Ooh. Are there any transferable?
That's a great question. Maybe it's inspired me just to realize that you don't have to be so confined with some of your aesthetic choices with acoustics. I've done a number of painted tops on acoustics and things like that, but for the most part they're somewhat traditional guitars. Like I've incorporated metal work for quite a few years and stone and things like that, but those are more used as like little offset sort of pieces. I'd love to design or do some kind of crazy guitar that looks like the electrics, you know, it's seafoam green or something like that, and maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't, but it's sort of opened up the idea in my brain that I could do something a little bit more creative, maybe just as a one-off acoustic or something like that.
Yeah, it would be.
If any of the North American guitar clients are interested.
That's the ticket.
Yeah. Well, the next one I'm doing with you guys is a 00, and I've been talking. It's Tasmanian tiger myrtle.
Oh, beautiful.
Myrtle. That's going to be fun. I think we'll do something unique with that one.
Yeah. Do you know what the top's going to be for that one?
The top is going to be some sort of spruce. We haven't spec'd it out enough yet to really know, but the plan is, or the thought in my brain right now is actually incorporating tiger myrtle into the fretboard and the head plate as well.
Oh wow!
So instead of having, you know, your standard black fretboard, maybe the tiger myrtle can drift up into the fretboard, perhaps into the rosette too. That could be unique, and little things like that, right? You know, it's not seafoam green, but it's a little bit different visually and something unique when you look at it right away. No,
man, that would be stunning. I mean, I love the way you carry a theme through a guitar like that, whether it's with metalwork or anything you're using in engrafts and rosettes. There always feels like throughout the guitar there's this continuation of an idea.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I use the word cohesive way too much, but I just try to make it as cohesive as possible. Anyone can, you know, slap a bunch of inlay on a guitar, and you know, we know that world from banjos. You know, no offense to banjos, I'm a lover and player myself, but those things were not designed with a sort of a modern aesthetic, you know. Pearl as far as the eye can see, and nothing really makes sense with itself. I try to think of it as a little bit of a framing, you know, and just enough details to pull your eye in one direction here or there.
It's nice that idea of balance isn't just a tonal thing.
Yeah.
I think balance is a good way to sum up.
Yeah, if you can hit it all. Yeah. Yeah, I was going through a few branding exercises recently, actually, and balance was one of my main things. Balance tonally, balance visually. It's hit that sweet spot. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's the same in regard to stuff like headstock shapes that become so iconic.
Sure.
But I've noticed there's been such a degree of variation in that as well. But it always feels like it's for the form of the guitar overall, which is a lovely thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's interesting. My headstock is a variation on a Traugot, and that's where I initially saw it many, many years ago. And it was funny because I got a hold of Jeff and I asked him. I said like, I love this headstock. I've used it on a few occasions. How do you feel about me using something like this moving forward? And he got a hold of me and he was very kind. He said, I didn't invent this. I borrowed it from my friend. And he said, first of all, yours is different than mine. It's way different. And it's those small little lines that not everybody sees, but
well, to a luthier, that's everything.
Exactly. When you're looking for it, he could clearly see it was different, right? Whereas maybe everybody doesn't see that, but once your brain sort of picks up on those details, you sort of appreciate all of the lines that go into certain guitars.
And there's something wonderful about inspiration, being able to see that, being able to trace just where something's come from.
Yeah, it's weird. There's this obsession, maybe I sound like I'm dating myself and I'm this old timer all the time, but there's this obsession with claiming certain things recently from some of the younger crowd. I invented this, I created this, and you soon realize that, no, somebody did that 200 years ago. I'd be the first to say I'd like to think I try to do new things, but I don't think I ever succeed. I try to make it a little bit creative, a little bit unique, but I fully realize that someone's probably had that idea or that design before me. It's just my interpretation of it is hopefully a little bit different, and you go from there.
Well, it certainly comes out absolutely beautiful. I mean, they're stunning instruments, and it's great to see it.
Thanks.
Variation. I'm excited to see more of them. Excited for more to come through.
Sure, yeah, it's tough. I know we'll be getting a couple more in the coming years, so I look forward to working with you guys on that for sure.
Brilliant. Well, until then, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Hopefully catch you again soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you bet.